and the way he like the way the author describes other people, I guess. And
Yeah, he doesn't say anything really mean about people when he describes them.
right, right.
Just how they look or good things about them.
Yeah.
Do you think it came from his military experience? Because Nick Carraway, as the character, and Fitzgerald himself both served in the war.
Right. So, I mean, it'd be a little surprising though that, like, we're not really seeing from the story about like maybe the side effects that he could have had. Like, he still seems like a good citizen.
They only mentioned it once when he first met Gatsby. I was at the bottom of page 51 and top of page 52, where we learned that about the character.
Didn't we like in the first chapter? Didn't like we learned like when he was at the dinner table, and they asked him something about the war or something.
They didn't?
I feel like I'm pretty sure someone like mentioned him being like coming from the war. I think
Gatsby talked to him about
in like the first chapter.
Group in the war.
Well, right. When he meets Gatsby, they also talk about being in the war and everything. But I'm pretty sure they mentioned it before. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think they did.
Fitzgerald never actually served in the war. He was put at a post at Camp Sheridan in Montgomery, Alabama, and that's where he met his wife Zelda, who the book is dedicated to.
Oh, that's cool. Alright, so I guess that shows the difference between him and the character.
He just says that after he graduated from New Haven in 1915, just a quarter of a century after my father, and a little after I participated in the delayed Teutonic migration known as the Great War. So he does reference the World War I.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next question, which is, so how does this show, or what does it show about the author's way of writing?
I think the author himself is a helpless romantic. Like, even the way he describes scenes in the book and the way he describes people, it's just very beautiful. Like, he's in love with life.
Right. Yeah. He's very descriptive of everything he writes.
Like, every detail counts.
Yeah. Right. Like you would see like just lots of paragraphs of
just description.
just description and it. But it's a nice writing style because it really gives you, like,
you can like
better
get
imagery.
to know all the characters because he spends a long time describing each of them.
Yeah. And it gives you better imagery of like what it's like there, and
even at the beginning before we met Gatsby, like on page 6, Nick was talking about if personality is a series of unbroken gestures, then there was something beautiful about him, and he was talking about Gatsby. So even before we met Gatsby, we could infer that he was like a good person.
Yeah.
Did good, and that was just because of the writing and how he described him. He didn't say like handsome or nice, just a beautiful person.
Right before we met Gatsby, like, weren't they like talking about if he killed a man before and stuff like that?
Yeah, there were all these rumors about him.
Right. And so it was kind of made us uncertain of the character, I think, at that moment, but.
Yeah, I started to think if he wasn't such a great person.
Right, but then we didn't even know that we met him actually until after their discussion.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. But yeah, so I definitely like that part. So the next question is, what idea seems to be common in each chapter? So like from each chapter, what we read, like what's the main story? Because like the chapters are kind of separate stories in a way, because it was a different day.
He always like goes and socializes with his friends, and there's a big reveal or something big happens at the end of every chapter.
Yeah, like we learn something new.
Yeah.
But something big that's really important and contributes to the.
It reveals more about the character, and it kind of sets up how we meet Gatsby in chapter 3. Yeah, and so let's see. How does the story develop with each chapter?
Not exactly sure. Like, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking more about like how does it transition from each chapter? So like what we learned from chapter 1, how is it affected in chapter 2?
Transferred to chapter 2.
Yeah, so like
something big always happens at the end of the chapter, and then like the chapter after that is just all about what it is like. You find out that Tom has a mistress at the end of chapter 1, and then chapter 2 is all about his mistress.
right, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
so something that's kind of just brought up in one chapter becomes a major
right,
event in
yeah.
And it's definitely each day. Like the first one ended at night, and then the second one started when he woke up.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah. And like chapter 2 like really sets up how the next chapter will be like for how we meet Gatsby.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it mentions a lot of upcoming things that will happen.
Yeah.
So yeah. And all right, so let's see. For a final question, I'm just gonna ask you guys if there's anything else you guys want to mention about the story.
Actually, well, it's not really about the story, but I found this cool fact that the guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner, Francis Scott Key, is Fitzgerald's second cousin, twice removed on his father's side. And I just thought that was really cool, especially because they're both creative people, kind of runs in their family. And also, Fitzgerald moved a lot, and so I wanted to ask you guys if where the story takes place, which is in New York, was affected by his experiences of when he lived in New York, because that was one of the places that he lived the most
Yeah.
for the longest.
Yeah. A passage I thought was interesting was when Tom broke Mrs. Wilson's nose. So I don't know, like, what was the point of putting that in the book?
To show that Tom isn't that good of a
Yeah,
person.
it was.
Like
Tom's
he's
like a-
really aggressive.
Yeah, it's trying to show his I guess.
Kind of development of his character. and
Right.
him as a
And they
person.
describe him as like a huge guy, aggressive.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even Nick doesn't really like him, even though they're supposed to be friends.
Right. So yeah. What do you guys think of the book so far? You guys like it?
I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Not like I thought it would be.
Yeah. I think it was a little hard to get into it at first, but
Yeah, because
It's-
of all the big words and like
yeah.
words that we don't even use anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
He was very descriptive in the beginning, but it led to a better understanding of the story of like where they are and how life is, and
Yeah.
I'd like to bring us back to the theme. With each chapter, we still saw the theme of like the American dream, and how how other people live.
I know we've talked about this in other classes before, but like, what do you guys think the American dream is and how that contributes to the story?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of having a job and starting a family with well, maybe pets, or something like that. But
Even in the beginning,
Mhm.
it said that Nick had a dog before he ran away.
Yeah.
right. And this is set in Like New York, right? So that's like
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a big city
The
for
center of
America.
America.
Roaring
Right.
20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a place which developed really quickly, and kind of where the American dream maybe
Mhm.
started from, kind of in a way.
Yeah, because it was published in 1925, so right in the middle of the Roaring 20s. So I think it was kind of influenced by that era
Mhm.
and what happened then.
Yeah. So if the story is about Gatsby and his like love life, what do you think is the point of the passage where they talk about that Tom is having an affair, and like what do you think is the point of Tom having an affair if the story is about Gatsby?
I think since he's in love with Daisy, but Daisy's married, like I think that was Daisy being married and having a kid. I think that was to show
Mhm.
like her life and how well off she is. But since the romance is with Gatsby, Tom having a mistress is maybe to set her free a little bit,
Yeah.
to show that she's not completely
Yeah,
bound to him.
it's like a good subplot
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that makes the story interesting, I guess. Alright.